The Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors:
Foran Exercise Equipment, Samson Exercise Equipment, Intech Strength, Iron Grip Barbell Company, Train Heroic, Gym Aware, Woodway, Versa Pulley. And now, the Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast.
Welcome to Iron Game Chalk Talk with your host, Ron McKeefery.
Every time our athletes walk into this weight room, they're going to be pushed to the max.
Let's go! Everything you got!
On this podcast, hear Coach McKeefery's straight talk about training, featuring the top strength and conditioning professionals from around the world. And now, here's your host, Ron McKeefery.
Welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and this is episode number 189 and starting the 5th year of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Super excited to have Bill Foran with us today. Bill, for those that don't know, has been named the NSCA Professional Strength Coach of the Year at the award being given out at the NSCA conference this weekend, and couldn't think of a better guy. More deserving guy. Bill's been in the profession for a long time. Just a fantastic person, first and foremost, but a great coach. And I've followed him from afar. Just really been impressed by everything that he's done and just the way he goes about his business. And so it was really, truly an honor to get him on the show. We talk about quite a few things. His road, his journey to get to the Miami Heat. We talk about, the biggest mistake he's made, all the normal questions, but really dig into some great questions about the profession. Where's the profession at? Where's it going? What's some advice for young coaches? All those types of things, and just tons of nuggets of wisdom in this episode. Before we get to that, though, I do want to take a moment, and we've picked up, we have a total of 8 sponsors for this year, and we did something a little bit different than I've done in the past. Usually it's just been 4 sponsors, and I rotate between the 4 each month. And we're going to be rotating between the 8. And what we did was we packaged Play Summits, Play Masterminds, the podcast, and a new show that I have coming out, web show called Beyond the Chalk. We packaged that all into one big sponsorship package. And every one of these sponsors I've used, every one of these sponsors I've brought, I've put in weight rooms that I have or use regularly still to this day, or it's in my garage with my family. Great companies. We wanted to make sure we aligned ourselves first with the right companies that have similar missions, and wanted to make sure we aligned ourselves with companies that were committed to giving back to the strength and conditioning coach. And Soranex and Samson and Iron Grip and Intech, Train Heroic, Gym Aware, Woodway, and Versa Pulley. I mean, you guys all know these brands. You all know how much they do for our profession, not just in being in the exhibit hall at the NSCA or CSCCA conference, but they're out supporting coaches and learning initiatives and all those types of things. And so just real excited to have them as partners. They're going to be at all the summits, or at least represented at all the summits. We have 3 U.S. summits at Under Armour headquarters, at Play headquarters, and in Noblesville High School in Indiana in conjunction with the Combine. We have 3 international. We have Australia, Toronto, and Belfast, Ireland. And then we have 2 masterminds. We have a speed mastermind that's going to be done at Lauren Lando's place. Some of the best speed minds and multi-directional coaches in the world that are going to be there, and it's going to be more of a workshop. And then we have a workshop for young coaches for professional development in Woodstock. And I'm going to be releasing speakers throughout the upcoming weeks here. But go to playsummits.com. Make sure that you register. It's still relatively early registrations. I think it's only $75 for the summits. I think it's maybe $125 for the Speed Mastermind. But I can tell you the speakers that we're talking about and that we have already committed, each one would be worth that $75. We kept it at a low price point because we wanted to make sure we got as many coaches there and helped as many coaches as possible. So help me, support the sponsors because without them, those things don't happen. But make sure that you just go up to at the conference and thank them for being a part of this and supporting you guys as well. And so sit back. You're gonna love this episode with Bill, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. Really, really excited to have Bill Foran with us, the head strength coach for the Miami Heat, and we've talked off camera, but it is absolutely amazing that we have never met in person. But I've followed you from afar. You followed me from afar, and feel like we're talking to an old friend, right?
Exactly. Yes, I followed you, and I've listened to a ton of podcasts. So
that's
you
awesome.
feel like an old friend.
I appreciate that, Coach, and it really means a lot that you would listen to Iron Game Chalk. It's been a fun project, and allows me to talk to great coaches like yourself. But what what I'd like to get into just real quick, Coach, is Reader's Digest version because it would take 20 plus minutes to go through your whole history. But give us a brief background of kind of what got you into strength and conditioning, maybe some of the stops along the way to your role there with Miami.
Sounds good. I was coaching high school football in the late 70s in a small school in Michigan. It was the smallest school in the conference. They hadn't won in years. And I said, okay, these are my athletes. I got to make them better. And we started a strength and conditioning program. We started winning.
That's awesome.
That's when I knew I liked developing athletes more than the X's and O's. And we're about a half hour from Michigan State, and I'd meet with their strength coach and talk about different things. And I was taking grad classes in exercise phys at Michigan State, one a semester as I was teaching.
Sure.
And it got to a point he needed a grad assistant, and I had 1 year I could finish my degree. So I went to Michigan State, finished my degree. And this doesn't happen anymore, but that was a spring of 1981. There were two openings around the country, Mississippi State and Washington State. And I went from grad assistant at Michigan State. And we were just starting out, and I caught a break. They hadn't been to a bowl game in 50 years, and we started winning a little bit. And so I was there 4 years, and we had 3 winning seasons. That got me to the University of Miami. And I was at University of Miami where we had a nice 55-5 run with 2 national championships. So that was pretty cool. And then the Heat came to town. Right. So the first year with the Heat, I was a consultant because they practiced at University of Miami, and they approached me to help their athletes, and the university allowed me to do that.
Wow.
So I was training them. And in March of that first year, the head coach, Ron Rothstein, came to me and said, would you be interested in coming on full time? And I was torn because we had a pretty good thing going with Miami. But absolutely. I went from 300 athletes to 15 athletes. I had 1 assistant back then. It was kind of crazy. But he told me that Billy Cunningham's always in his office early before games. Billy wants to talk to you about strength and conditioning. So I sat down with him, and I'm in his office talking strength and conditioning. At the time, when I got hired, it was only the 6th team in the NBA to have a full-time strength coach. So they kind of had a vision, which was good.
Yeah.
But there was a knock on the door. It was Wilt Chamberlain. He was in town for a volleyball tournament, and he wanted to see his buddy Billy.
That's awesome.
So Billy introduces me and tells him what we're talking about. And he says, Billy, when I was at Kansas, he said, I was a basketball player and a track athlete. They wouldn't allow basketball players to lift weights, but I lifted as a track athlete. He says, hell, you got to have a strength and conditioning coach. So he said, everybody thought I was dominant because I was bigger than everybody. He said, hell, I'm stronger than everybody. Right. He says, you got to have a strength and conditioning coach.
That's awesome.
So that's quick version, kind of how it got me to the Heat.
That's awesome. You know what? Being an old football coach, and going from, working with 105 guys to 15, that would have to be a little bit of a shock to you. How did you manage that transition?
It was a shock in that I could be so specific with each guy. I could spend more time with each guy, which was really good. But then the real shock was 82 games and the craziness of the NBA schedule and how to manipulate and work strength in that schedule.
Right. Well, talk about that. How have you managed to create a year round? Because a lot of these guys take off. I mean, you're in Miami, so a lot of them probably stay, but they come and go, and it's a long season. How do you kind of
Yeah,
create an annual
yeah.
program?
We have a long maintenance program where you get 3, 4, 5 games a week, but they still need to keep their strength. The strongest you want to be is in the playoffs, so you got to train throughout the season. So twice a week, sometimes we can't quite get that, but we got to maintain the strength. But a quick story, our first ever draft pick was Ronnie Cycli, 6'10" center out of Syracuse. He weighed 230 pounds. In his first year, he just got ate up. We were a brand new team, and he was a rookie that started in the NBA, and he wasn't ready. The next summer, to Ronnie's favor, he did not miss a workout, spent the whole summer. He went from 230 to 252, 8% body fat stayed the same, improved his vertical jump 3 inches, and was voted the most improved player in the league.
Wow.
So right from the get-go, the Miami Heat saw the importance of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, no doubt.
So in season, twice a week, and we got to do total body.
Yeah.
And so it's a grind to maintain. Then in the off season, we let them get away for a month, recover, and like you said, a lot of guys stay in Miami. They like Miami. If not, we send the programs out to them. But we do a 4-day split routine. In the past, it was like a 12-week program, but now it's more like a 8-week program to prepare them, get ready for the season, and then do it again.
Right. With dealing with pro basketball, you got a crazy balance. You got the guys that went through a 4-year college program where they have a pretty good training age, and then you got the AAU high school kids and European guys that are coming in with almost zero training age. How have you been able to manage that?
Yeah, luckily with 15 guys, each guy's individual, but there's a big difference in strength levels. With some guys come in, they have no strength base at all. Other guys have a strength base where they worked and trained, and they can see a difference.
No doubt. Going through that career, and obviously you not as many stops along the way as maybe some people, but very lots of success. Probably a couple setbacks in there every once in a while. What was one of the biggest mistakes that you ever made, and then kind of how you learned from that?
I want to finish the story on Ronnie, and that ties into this next, what you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I told you how Ronnie's first workout with me, he came in and he said, "I'm ready to work out, but I don't squat." I said, we're split routine. We're doing upper body today. We're going to do legs tomorrow, and we squat differently here. And that's all I said. And we did our workout. The next day he comes in, he says, "How do you squat differently?" I said, "We squat correctly." So he's never been taught how to squat, and he became a very good squatter, and that's one of the reasons he put on 22 pounds is because he learned to squat and accept that.
Right.
So a teammate of his didn't like to squat, and I'm trying to get him to squat. And it's in season. This is our second year. It's my first year full time. November of my first year. It's the first month of my career with the Heat. And I'm trying to get him to squat in season. Just get him going. Teach him how to do it.
Right.
And we're playing the Lakers. It was still Showtime Lakers. They come to Miami and blow us out by 40. The next day, coach asked him, "What happened?" He says, "Bill made me squat. My legs were sore." The coach wanted to fire me on the spot.
Yep.
So what I've learned is you got to be a little smart when to do it, but you got to watch because guys will throw you under the bus too.
Yeah.
So that was probably my biggest mistake is trying to push him in season to try to squat when he didn't want to squat, and he threw me under the bus.
Right. That's always one of those challenges as a strength coach because, at the end of the day, unless they become a strength coach, they don't love the weight room nearly as much as you do.
Exactly.
You chose to do this with the rest of your life, and it's just a means to an end for them. But yeah, you're right about that. You got to be selective of when you fight your battles, right? There's lots of young strength coaches that are listening to the show, and many of them want to be the head strength coach for the Miami Heat. They want to be the head strength coach for the University of Miami football. What advice for those young coaches do you have in today's current climate to be able to reach those types of goals?
The big thing, they got to get as much experience as possible. Get experience with young athletes, volunteer. You got to pay the price and put in the work. You got to get the education. You got to get the certifications. Then you got to network. And if you're doing that, people recognize you and you're moving up the ladder.
Yeah, I always say that there's a big difference between being qualified and being experienced. And
exactly.
You have to have, those baseline of qualifications, that master's degree, the exercise science degree, all the certifications. That's a bare minimum. That's a prereq. That's not set you apart. That's just to get you out the door. From there you have to. It's still very much an apprenticeship type of profession where you have to learn on the job how to manage people, on time and resources and all these other things, and so it's so important that you get that experience. You've been in this profession for a long time, and I mean, at the top of your game, you just won the Professional Strength Coach of the Year, this year, which congratulations on that. But
Thank you.
What do you see in the profession that you like? What do you see in the profession that you don't like? And then where do you see it going in the future?
Well, I think they got a lot of programs got away from strength for a while, and strength's got to be the basis. Who the father of periodization, what's his name?
Medvedev.
Yeah, he had a quote that strength is the mother quality of all physical qualities. So I like that the father of periodization talked about the mother quality. But when you're strong, you run faster, you're more powerful, you're more agile. So that's got to be the main thing. And some people have gotten away from that. And like in the NBA, corrective exercise became big. There's a place for it, but it's not the strength program. Right. So people are hopefully coming back to strength. But that's the big thing is strength has to be the basis.
Sure. That's something that maybe you dislike. What do you like about the profession and where it's at right now?
You know what? It's really grown from where I started as far as the people involved and the science behind it. And now there's all these individual, the private performance areas. We never had that before. So it's really blossoming as far as numbers. And I think the education and the science is growing as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where do you think it should go? Where do you think that, obviously you're keeping strength as a focus and science driving our training are the important things, but, do you see it becoming more specialized? Do you see it, technology taking over the world? Where do you see it going?
And see, we're looking at technology right now with different things, wearable technology, and we're trying to gather data to see what we see. Right. So that's out there. I think if it's used correctly, will help us be better strength coaches.
Sure.
So I think that's good. But as long as they stay with the basics, you stay with the basics of strength and conditioning and see what's out there to slowly move in different areas. I think that's the way to go.
You've got a whole career of successes and great players that you've coached and things like that to point to at this point. But it's still in this field, in this job, you're almost selling yourself every single day. What makes you unique? What sets you apart from any other strength coach in the NBA or any other strength coach that's practicing right now?
Wow, I don't know if they set apart, but what I try to do is communicate with them, show them I care, show them the program we've got, and just try to make these athletes better. And so if you can get them on your side, that helps. But I'm here for them to become better athletes. But I think that's what all strength, I don't know if I separate myself there. I think being around for 29 seasons has helped a little bit, that they understand that we have a pretty good formula here.
Right.
And one of the things, Pat Riley, being, when he came in 21 years ago, he was a coach that understood the importance of strength and conditioning, which really helps a lot. You got to have the backing. Not all teams have that.
Right.
There's some NBA coaches that don't think they need to lift weights, but he gets it. In fact, my first meeting ever with him, he told me he's into two things: fundamentals and conditioning. If you have those two things, you have a chance. And so that's so important. But one of the things that he's really into is monitoring body fat. And we check weight and body fat weekly, sometimes stretches out with travel a little more than that. It's a little overkill, but we never have surprises. But we've monitored body fat with performance and track them. And it's amazing. Guys, body fat creeps up a little, it drops, his performance drops off. It's amazing. Another thing, I talked at some of my talks, I told this story, but he's mentioned another meeting with me, and he's talking about weight and body fat. He said, Bill, you don't have to worry about the ectomorphs. And I thought, whoa, that's pretty good, Coach.
Yeah, right. You got
He
a big word
says,
there.
keep your eye on the mesomorphs, but spend your time with the fatty morphs. So, pretty good line.
Spend your time with the fatty morphs. I'm stealing that one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
When you have the backing of the ownership or your coaching staff and things like that, it's great. And it makes life a lot easier. But that's not always the case, and it's not always, obviously you're downplaying your role in that a little bit too, where you've educated properly and got them to buy into you and your program philosophy. What are some of the tactics that you've used? Specific examples where some coaches can take that back to their schools, their programs, and implement it with their administrations to get them to buy in, is like you've had for 29 seasons.
Wow. What I use examples of guys in the past, like Ronnie Cycli, getting strong with squats, becoming a good squatter, and becoming a better basketball player. Mm-hmm. So I try to tie in some of the history of the Heat in guys like Shaquille O'Neal came here and he lost 50 pounds and we won a championship. So the weight and body fat was extremely important, and he got it, and he helped us win a championship. We had another athlete, Ike Austin, came in and lost 65 pounds and was voted the most improved player in the league and signed a big contract. Unfortunately, it wasn't with us, but we use stories of weight and body fat, dropping body fat and becoming better athletes. But we've had guys that have never been all-stars on other teams come to us, drop 20 pounds, they became an all-star. Yeah. So with the weight and body fat and with different strength, I try to use stories in the past that here's what can happen, just put in the work.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. The power of storytelling is huge, and something that I've done in the past and is I keep an email folder that I call a brag folder, and I keep a PowerPoint presentation that I call a brag PowerPoint presentation, where every time that I see an example or get an email of positivity or something, I'll throw it in that folder and create a slide. And every once in a while, when I need to pull something out, I have this bank of examples that I can use, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Another thing, when they walk in the door, we take into the weight room for the first time, take their picture without a shirt on, front and back.
Yeah.
And then the guys will drop 20 pounds and put on muscle. We have before and after pictures, and they absolutely love them. And I got some guys, they're hanging in their locker, the before and after picture, as reminders to them to keep it going.
No doubt. I couldn't agree with you more. What do you at this point in your career, what's your biggest challenge? What do your daily challenge as a strength coach? What's your biggest challenge?
Wow. Well, probably my biggest challenge, there's always a couple guys in the NBA that fight you, that don't understand the importance. They got to this level without doing it, and that's where I put my energy, is to try to educate those guys, continue to work with those guys, try to make those guys better. So that's how I look. My biggest challenge, I always look at the the weak spots on the team that need more work in here, and those become my challenges.
What do you love most about the profession at this point in your career?
Taking these world-class athletes and making them a little better, is because we get athletes that have had pretty good careers coming from another team. We drop their body fat, we get them a little stronger, their production goes up on the court, and that's what I like to see, is just making these athletes a little bit better.
Sure. I think if I remember correctly, your son coaches for you too, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah. Very good.
So
it's been amazing that, real quick, how that happened. Eric was a track athlete at University of Florida. He was their top pole vaulter, all SEC pole vaulter on 2 national championship teams, which is pretty cool. And then he got his grad degree in exercise phys from Florida and needed an internship. And we don't do internships, but I went to Coach Riley, and he said, yeah, we can do that, and I'll make sure it's a paid internship.
Wow.
Well, that paid internship for a semester turned into into 2 years, and then the Heat approached us, having Eric come on full time. So this is his 5th season, and so he lives a mile and a half from me, so he comes over in the morning and eats breakfast, and we drive into work, listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and
you can't beat that.
It's pretty cool.
That is awesome. That kind of brings me to my question is most, you talk to a lot of coaches, half of them will tell you that they want their kids to stay as far away from coaching as possible. And obviously your son saw, what it does for you and, the impact that you make and decided to make that same type of impact. What was it that you feel like you passed on to him, and what do you think that he grabbed a hold of as a reason why he wanted to make that his career?
You know what? I just saw this skinny little wiry hyper middle school guy that started weight training and conditioning and became a state champion athlete and signed with Florida, that he loved training, and he wouldn't drink sodas. He if you go out, it would be salmon and broccoli. He got it from the beginning.
Right.
I didn't force any of that. It's what he wanted to do.
That's awesome.
And to see the results of what a great athlete he became. And then I didn't think this would happen at all. It's just that he needed an internship, and it's just evolved to this, which has been really cool.
That's fantastic. Well, Coach, I know you're busy, and we end the show with some resources here. Give us the best piece of coaching advice that you ever received?
You know what? I don't know if it was coaching or if it was life, but it's dream big and work hard.
Love it.
And if you're going with that, you have a chance.
I agree. What about a book, app, and website recommendation?
You know what? I read a book recently, or one of our books, Driving into Work. It's
sure.
Called The Gorilla Mindset.
That's a good one.
By Cernovich. So you may have heard about that. But live life on your own terms. And he talks fitness and health in it. But that was pretty interesting. But another one I just read that doesn't have to do with our profession, but everybody in the profession needs something like this. It's called The 5 Mistakes That Every Investor Makes and How to Avoid Them by Peter Maluk. It's just the most common sense financial book I've seen, and we all need to look at that. So
no doubt.
Those 2 are the last 2.
No, I agree with that. That's something that I preach to my staff and coaches that I come across, is that if your finances right, your family's right, there's a lot less stress at work. That's for sure.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Any apps or websites you regularly
use?
You
know what? One that comes to mind, if you use it correctly, if you look at Twitter, it can be fun stuff, or you can get all your news. If you just search strength and different guys, there's articles and magazines, and you can get so much information off of Twitter if you use it correctly.
I agree.
So,
I agree. You mentioned podcasts a couple of times. Is there any podcasts besides Iron Game Chalk Talk you listen to?
Oh, I listen to a few guys out there, but you're number one, so I'll keep it with you.
Oh shoot, I'm not trying to plug my show.
No, I know. But
I'm curious if there's any ones that I wasn't listening to.
I'm trying to Brett Contreras.
Yeah.
I've listened to some things. Brad Schoenfeld.
Yeah. Very good.
The typical names out there I try to listen to.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, Tim's a great
Has
one.
a lot of interesting things, and so I enjoy listening to Tim Ferriss.
Are you reading his new book? Have you checked that one out? Yeah,
Eric's got. I haven't got it yet, but I'm gonna get it on audio so we can listen to it. But Eric started in on it, my son, and it's so I've skimmed it. And
yeah,
I like his stuff.
I think it'd be a great audiobook actually, but I usually buy his because he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I'm off tomorrow actually to the NSCA where they're going to be recognizing you as the Pro Strength Coach of the Year, and it's rightfully so. It's long overdue, and
well, thank you.
Really
wish I could be there.
Yeah, I wish you could too, and I just want to acknowledge you for a second, just what you've done in this profession and help pave the way for so many coaches and the job that you do and the way that you do it. And so I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with everybody today.
Thank you. It's amazing that it's taken this long to connect, but I'm glad Play put us together. So
that's right.
I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
That's it for this episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Thanks to this week's guest as well as our sponsors for bringing this episode to you for free. Make sure to check out ronmckeefery.com where you can join our mailing list, find the show notes, including all the links and resources mentioned, and information about Coach McKeefery's other products. While you are there, please join Coach McKeefery in the comments section thanking our guest for sharing. If you haven't subscribed to Iron Game Chalk Talk on YouTube or iTunes yet, make sure to do so. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome. Coach McKeefery can be found on Twitter at @RMcKeefery, on Facebook and YouTube at /Ron.McKeefery. That's it for this week. Be sure to check back next week for another great episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk.